You ask? I'm answering. In this video, we're diving into your burning questions about life as an expat in Panama. I'm also going to be addressing some of the negative questions as well. Questions like, do you need to speak Spanish? Are rents still affordable? Is Panama my forever home? Is Panama City walkable? I'm answering questions on dual citizenship, surfing, anchor babies leaving the USA, and more. In no particular order, we're starting with this one. Are anchor babies leaving the US? I see what you were trying to do there. So let me first say that I'm not an anchor baby. I actually don't like that term. My mother was not an anchor baby. She was born in the USA. And my parents both met at a prestigious university for graduate school, which they both obtained their degrees from. They met there, got married, and had me. Not an anchor. So the next one is, no one really cares. We don't need to know your business. I find it strange that you people who leave can't stop running your mouth about the USA. Why is that? Well, actually, this is my first video running my mouth about the USA. I think it's just a way to share our current feelings. I left the USA after living there for 46 years, and I'm living in a new country. And once I moved, realized things about the USA I just don't like, and that's okay. No country is perfect, but I wouldn't say people are running their mouths. I think it's an enlightening moment, or I think that people are just realizing the conditions they were living in and why they don't want to live that way ever again. So if that's running your mouth, I was running my mouth. I wonder how much she makes from real estate and tourists. Nothing. I am not a realtor. I don't get commissions from real estate. Nothing. I don't do tours. I actually do consulting and YouTube. People who make this kind of childish videos are so arrogant. More often than not, they're failures in their own country, the USA. And what makes them think that anyone cares? They low-key are actually telling us that the USA is an exceptional country. Okay, so I'll address the failure one first. I don't think I was a failure. I definitely was not a failure. If I was a failure, I would hate to see what success looked like. I had a really successful career. I left the USA at the height of my career. At one point, I was managing up to around 800 employees. It's not a failure. I received numerous industry awards. I was published in numerous magazines, and had 2 degrees. And I definitely, low-key, was not saying the US is an exceptional country. Why migrants pass through the Darien Gap to come to the USA if Panama is so wonderful? So that's a loaded comment question. I can't answer that. I think people have heard about the American dream for all of their life. You can make more money in the USA. You might have more freedoms in the USA. But between USA and Panama, the USA pays more. And you might just get more benefits. You know, once a lot of people get through the Darien Gap, there are camps there and they receive like medical care, whatever else they need, and then they're kind of moved on to the next country. So they might be bused to Costa Rica, for example. So they might not have the option to even stay in Panama. So actually a viewer commented on this question and they said, plenty of migrants have stayed in Panama, but it's much harder to find a job in Panama than the US. And they pay much less. That's the short of it. Two viewers are kind of similar. What is a benefit beyond bragging rights, and what are some of the other reasons to obtain this citizenship? Bragging rights. I wouldn't call it bragging. I think it's an honor, and it's a privilege. to be able to obtain citizenship by descent in any country. I think it could give you more of an identity. It can give you another culture to experience and kind of reach back into your roots. I feel like a lot of African Americans in the US don't have that connection to another country, so all they know is the US, and to be able to have another country accept you from your lineage is special. So I don't know that it's bragging. Some of the benefits for having dual citizenship is, if I say, for example, go to Jamaica, a tourist would have to leave maybe after 90 days. I don't have to leave ever. I can live there, I can work there, I can vote, I can contribute in ways that I may not have been able to as a tourist. And I just think it's important, if you can, to reach back to your roots. So Swellbell 1 posed this question: are there any benefits of being in CARICOM now? Say I wanted to go to Barbados. It says foreign nationals who are allowed to stay in Barbados as a visitor for more than 3 months a year are usually granted an initial period of 3 months on entry, except for CARICOM nationals, which are typically granted 6 months. And here are a list of all the CARICOM nations: Antigua and Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, Montserrat, St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago. I can stay longer in those countries than a tourist would be able to. And with the CARICOM passport, you can travel without visas to certain countries: UK, Singapore, Hong Kong. Passport of Grenada also allows visiting China without a visa, as well as apply for an E2 business visa to the United States. So remember I said you might be able to work in another country? It is country dependent. For the Bahamas, as a CARICOM member, I can work in member states with the exception of the Bahamas, Montserrat, and Haiti without the need to obtain a work permit. That's a big deal. I applied at the Jamaican New York consulate for citizenship via descent, mother, and it's been a year and I'm still waiting. Any tips? Okay, so I had success with emailing PICA, the Passport Immigration Citizenship Authority Agency, maybe. Anyway, the acronym is PICA, and they usually respond within 3 days. They're helping one of my friends who had applied a couple of years ago and didn't hear anything back, and some other people. So I definitely would start with PICA. Once you get the response from them, you can either go back to the consulate and say this paperwork's missing or they never received XYZ. But if you have copies of that paperwork, you can just email it to PICA in that thread and they'll respond, and usually they will proceed with processing of your paperwork. That happened to me. They were missing one document and I actually had a copy of my birth record with the consul authentication on it. And I just emailed that to them, and then a couple days later, I had my citizenship. And I hope you get the answers you need and you get it. Hi there. Are there certain situations that may require an interpreter for non-Spanish speaking expats? For example, signing leases, getting utilities, etc. So this is a great question. And yes and no. So I think in general, a lot of people can get by here with Spanglish or Google Translate or a translating app. That's helped me out tremendously. I do feel there are certain situations that you might want a translator, like if you're sent to the ER, the police pull you over. Now, generally, the police have been patient here, but there might be situations where your Spanglish or your basic Spanish or even Google Translate might not be able to help you in time, especially in the hospital or ER. So some people do hire translators. So it might be a good idea for your emergency contact to speak Spanish. Signing leases. Leases here are in Spanish, so either your realtor can translate it for you or you can copy and paste it into Google Translate. I would like to know if the rents are still affordable or did they go up over the last several years? Thank you in advance. I think what's happening is there's such an influx of people moving here, especially the city. So I can only speak for Panama City, that it's harder to find what you might have been able to obtain years ago. More people are coming. Rents might be a bit higher and you may not be getting as much, but still you can find deals and you can negotiate. I definitely feel like when I moved out of my first apartment into the one I'm in now, I let go of some of the things that I had And I think it was harder for me to find an apartment because I had a cat. Well, 2 cats. I will say, because I've been a good tenant and I have a good relationship with my landlord, they were nice and did not increase my rent for the second year. So there's that. The next 2 questions specifically came from the Panama Pacifico video.
Trash? Yeah, I mean, there's a full trash service, put it out in a designated area. The truck comes every day or 2 days, pretty regularly, to take it out. So it's a good system. No senior living in Panama Pacifico yet, though there might be in the future. There are a few people looking at it.
Okay, so winning in the workplace had a couple of questions. The first one is, if you had to do it all over again, would you still move to Panama? So yes, I absolutely would, and for various reasons. Okay, so number 1, so when I moved here, I went under the Friendly Nations visa before they changed the amount. So when I got that visa, I only had to deposit $5,000 into the bank account. Now I think it's $200,000 or $300,000. I don't know. It's around $200,000 or more. So that was one reason I would do it all over again. 2, I just have loved living here. I feel welcomed. I feel human. I feel at home. I love the culture. I love the people. I love my view. I love the tranquility that I feel here. I probably could get that in other countries, but I feel like as an American, this was an easy landing spot. It's close enough to the U.S. They use the U.S. dollar. The healthcare is good. They have a Johns Hopkins affiliated hospital. So yeah, I think this is an easy landing spot for people from the U.S. So yes, I would absolutely move here all over again. Another thing that I really love about Panama is I think it's unique in the fact that I can feel and get pieces of culture from my heritage. So Jamaica's had an influence here. Africa's had an influence here. So I just kind of feel like I get bits and pieces of my heritage all wrapped into one, and it's beautiful. Okay, question number 2. If you're single, what type of provisions have you considered for older age or getting sick? So for aging here, most likely would be assisted living for me if they have ones up to par when I reach that age or need it. Just because I have cerebral palsy and I might need more help with getting around and mobility, I don't know. They don't have a lot of research on people aging with cerebral palsy. And for like getting sick, I created a WhatsApp group with some people in my building and who are in contact with my like power of attorney, medical power of attorneys in the US. So they're all in one chat, and I put in my doctors in there. I'm going to add, I haven't finished it, like my medications that I'm on, if any at that time, like where my credit cards are, where my trust paperwork is, just all in one place where everybody knows. And one of the emergency contacts does speak Spanish, but my doctor speaks English. So, will Panama be your forever home? So I don't know. That's a really good question. I think while my cats are alive, yes. But once they pass, I don't know. I'll just see how I feel. I don't have any desire to create another home anywhere else. I might want to like bounce around the globe and live in different countries at a time. At this point, I don't see myself moving anywhere else. What would you say was your first step in moving to Panama paperwork-wise? Was it filling out some application form and submitting it to some office and waiting for a response? What was my first step? Okay, so I took a relocation tour, and the last day of the tour, I was asked if I wanted to start the residency process, and I said yes. Let's just start it. So that day I met with an immigration attorney, and he filled out the paperwork for me to open up a bank account here. So that was the first thing that I did. And then I think when I went back to the US, I had to gather any paperwork that they needed. So I'm going to post the timeline following this, because I don't remember. That was a couple of years ago. But definitely the first step was opening up the bank account, which was fun, with signing my signature 1,000 times until it matched what was in my passport. Okay, y'all, that signature thing here, you might have gotten your passport like 8 years ago and your signature has changed. They don't care. That dot better be over the same letter. Don't shift it. The first squiggle needs to be, everything needs to be the same. You can sit there for 20 minutes signing, practicing until you get it to look how it did on your passport. And how long did it take and what exactly did I have to submit? You know what? I have a timeline. So January 2021, I opened up the bank account. March 30th, 2021, I sent the paperwork to the embassy in California. Somewhere in that, I took fingerprints for the background check. 3/31, the embassy sent my paperwork to my attorney in Panama. April 11th, my attorney notified me that they received the authenticated documents. 5/31, the attorney filed the paperwork with immigration. 6/1, I was issued my temporary residency card. I came back for a wedding, so I was already here. Then a month later, and this was record time, the attorney notified me that I could return to Panama for my permanent residency. Now, he said I should probably wait a while because they were having an influx of people trying to get the friendly nations visa for the $5,000 deposit and opening up the corporation before they changed the amount. On the 23rd, we went back to immigration, and under 2 hours, I was a permanent resident. This one comes from H&D Abroad. Check out their YouTube channel. Can anyone speak on their experience getting the professional residency visa, especially if they have an education degree? Okay, I have no idea about this, so I'm going to ask my immigration attorney, and stay tuned for what he says. To qualify for this visa, foreign professionals must possess a degree, whether it's a TSU, a bachelor's, master's, or a doctorate. It's important to emphasize that this visa is applicable to careers not reserved exclusively for Panamanian nationals. The professional permanent residency visa initially grants a 2-year residency in Panama. After the initial period, you can apply for permanent and indefinite residency, making this an attractive option for those looking for long-term prospects in Panama. If the individual qualifies, they must first submit a request with the University of Panama, which will validate if said profession is not permitted. If it is permitted, they will then provide a letter. Margot Wilson asks, is the city of Panama a walkable area or must you purchase a vehicle for transportation? List the best modes of transportation, bus, Uber. So I think it depends where you live in Panama City. I don't think my neighborhood's that walkable, but you can walk, but you're definitely walking looking down. There are uneven sidewalks. There are cracks in sidewalks. Some places have missing manhole covers. There are other areas that are completely walkable with no issue, like Costa del Este. I would say a lot of El Cangrejo. I think it just depends where you live. People do walk here. So keep in mind, I have cerebral palsy, so my definition of walkable might be different, but I've gotten around. It might be more of a workout for me to get around, but I get around. List the best modes of transportation, bus, Uber. I've used Uber a lot. A lot of people use InDriver. A lot of people use the metro and the bus system here. I took a tour class on how to use the metro and the bus, and I was really, really pleasantly surprised at how clean it was, how easy it was to maneuver and get around. So I really just think it depends on you. You don't have to have a car in Panama City. From what I've seen, the buses and trains usually run on time, and they're really, really cheap, like 35 cents. Did you find a place to rent before you actually moved? If yes, how did you go about finding an ideal rental, again, from your perspective? I would say after my relocation tour, I came to Panama a lot. For vacations, during the residency process, more vacations, a wedding. So every time I would come, I would ask my realtor to take me around and show me apartments. So I knew that I wanted to live on Avenida Balboa. I wanted the water view. So every time I came, we looked at almost like a different building. And I just found the building that I just fell in love with. I think a month before I was ready to move, I saw a unit that I liked and I said I wanted it. And after I left, they negotiated. No, so the day that I was leaving, I think it was Mother's Day. Yeah, they negotiated the rent down for me a bit and then got the contract written. I was in Spain and had to figure out how to do the bank wire transfer from my Panamanian account to their account for the first time. And there was a slight glitch with that, but I got it done. But I was able to secure the unit with the help of my realtor. So I did just come here a lot. Every time I came, I looked, I identified a building that I wanted to move into. And then once a unit became available on my next trip here, he took me to go see it. He already knew my taste, and that was all she wrote. Did you go to Panama without a car or furniture, etc.? If so, how did you go about buying a car or furniture? Yeah, so I sold my car and furniture and everything before moving here. It was kind of weird to sell the car. Like, that was my first time as an adult not having a car. And I felt like I lost a piece of my independence with doing that. All my apartments here came fully furnished. The one I'm in now, it was fully furnished, but I ended up purchasing a coffee table, a desk, and a dresser. Everything else it had like the bed, it had TVs, it had the couch, dining room table, and like bar stools. Is there anything else that they had? And they had like balcony furniture. There are a lot of furniture stores here, so you can buy furniture. I ended up getting a new mattress too. These mattresses, they could kill your back. So I ended up purchasing a new mattress. Ascension 3924 asked, Peace, my question is, what are some of the difficulties of owning land there? Okay, I think so. Some of the issues are with titles and squatters. So you really want to make sure that the title is correct. And then squatters here. The laws are just different. So people will just, if a house is abandoned on land or the land is vacant, someone can just set up shop there and say they've lived there for years, and then they've lived there. So you'll have to go to court for that. It's completely different. It's actually fascinating. There are a lot of areas where you will just drive down and you can just tell that those are people that are squatting. So those are the only difficulties I can think of right now. If anyone else knows, please feel free to comment below and help to answer this question. Thank you. Are there notices from landowners or landowners in Panama such that a person can simply drive around a neighborhood and see land for sale or house for sale by owner? But you see that all the time. It'll say like "Se vende" and it'll list the number below. Just Matthew, great videos and content. Thank you. I go to Panama often, but just for vacation. Now I'm considering living there. How hard is it to open up a bank account and link it to an American account? Opening up a bank account, I think, depends on which bank you're going to and the branch you're going to, and the relationship your immigration attorney might have with that bank. So my process was relatively easy, other than me struggling to sign my signature from 1822 that no longer matches what I signed now in 2024. But yeah, it was just, I had to submit, I think, my income, a previous tax return, and maybe a letter from my bank. I don't remember if I had to submit a letter from my bank, but they accepted all of my paperwork. Linking it to an American account. So I haven't done that. A lot of us you can either write a check to yourself. People have done wire transfers from their bank to the bank in Panama. If you do write a check, it can take up to 3 weeks to clear. It'll come out of your U.S. account right away, but it'll take 3 weeks to end up in your Panama. I usually will go to the ATM and take out money, like $250 at a time, and then deposit that into the account. I have a Charles Schwab account, and they'll reimburse me those ATM fees at the end of the month. TR Driver 4330, you're an inspiration, hun. Thank you. Any ideas for income living out there? So glad for your journey living vicariously through you. Screw the rat race. Yes, screw that rat race. Unless you have to. Do you have to? Okay, so it's kind of hard for me to answer this question without knowing your background. So for example, Panama has protected professions. Like as an engineer, I can't work here as an engineer. Not for a Panamanian company. I could work for a consulting firm that does work in Panama, but I can't work directly as an engineer here. So like doctors, lawyers, accountants, engineers, excuse me. There might be an accountant maybe. So what a lot of people are doing is either they're consulting, like I have a consulting gig with a nonprofit in the US. Some people's jobs allow them to work remotely. A lot of people here have opened up their own businesses. I have a friend who started a phenomenal cookie business. I have a friend that does like events. A lot of people started their own tour companies. I think some people provide mental health care services. Some people have started like concierge services for like geared towards expats. So like they might pick up your packages or run errands for you. A lot of people are just retired. Oh, some people also like will do teaching English as a second language. Yeah, so those are some things that people have done. Cologne, Cologne. Okay, so one of my favorite places in Panama is Cologne. Okay, so Terry Carroll asked, do any foreigners live in Cologne? So yes, there are foreigners that live in Cologne. Do I know of any that live in Cologne City? Not off the top of my head. No, I have a couple friends that do own property, like beachfront property in Cologne. So yeah, there are a couple that actually do live in Cologne. I think more will start moving there once the infrastructure changes, and that's already underway. So a lot of you have asked on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, if there's a way for you to get in contact with me or to hire me for consulting. So I do have a website that's under construction right now. Stay tuned for its release, where you will be able to hire me for consulting, but I'm going to be answering questions on dual citizenship, living in Panama, traveling with disability, living in Panama with a disability. Some residency, I'm not a residency specialist. I don't want to be a residency specialist, and kind of covering your general concerns about like moving here, my process, things that you should do. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited to provide that service for you guys and to connect with you more one-on-one. Bo Mac asks, I'd love to know about some under-the-radar surf towns that I can visit when I come in the fall. I know nothing about surfing. I asked my friend Mike to answer this question since he's a surfer, but I forgot to ask him for under the radar. So he's just talking about surfing in general. So I hope that helps you.
The best surfing spots in Panama. So there are a few really good surfing spots in Panama. My personal favorite is in Chame. So it's about an hour and 15 minutes from the city. The beach there is called Playa Caracol, and the waves there, it's like a wave pool. It's got these perfect peeling waves, and it's always good there. No matter if it's bad at the other good beaches in Panama, there are always good waves to surf there. So that's my personal favorite. I also really like a spot called Playa Teta, which is near Coronado. It's a really good wave. It's a point break, and it's a lot of local Panamanians surf there. It's one of the oldest, one of the most famous spots for Panamanians, and it can get really crowded, but the wave's really good. There are also some really good waves on the Azuero Peninsula. My two favorite, first one is Playa Banal. It's a softer wave, so it's easier to learn on. So you can go there and take surf lessons, and it's a great experience if you don't know how to surf. It's one of the most friendly spots, user-friendly as far as like getting out there and learning how to surf. You can get on one of those big longboards and take the whitewash. That's a lot of fun. But then you go to the other side of the peninsula. There's a spot called Morillo, and that's on the Sunset Coast near Torrio. And it's a more powerful wave, a little bit more high performance. So if you're an experienced surfer, it's probably right there with Chame as one of the best waves in Panama. But I'm talking about the Pacific Coast. We also have the Caribbean. So Bocas del Toro is probably, Bocas del Toro has some of the best waves in all of Central and South America. And it's mostly reef break, because they're islands, or small islands. So you get a lot of reef breaks, so you got to be careful. If you hit the reef, you can get pretty scratched up. And there are a couple spots there that are some of the most treacherous, like dangerous waves to surf, but also you have some waves that are a little bit easier. And one of the coolest things about Bocas del Toro is the color of the water. You got that Caribbean blue water that you don't get on the Pacific side. So you really feel like you're in a tropical, sometimes you think you're in somewhere like Tahiti or the Maldives. World famous waves there too. So you have a lot of options in Panama for surfing. So either if you want to learn or you're experienced, Panama has it all. It's one of the best places in the world to surf for sure.
So these next, the Daring Gap you can learn more about that country, that You can learn more about that culture and fear. You can learn, let's start over. Where's the CARICOM? So there are a lot of work or engage, gainful. The three, seek, work, or engage. Okay. Did they have a affiliated John Hopkins? Oh, she had more questions. All right, I'm gonna hold on. If anyone else knows, please feel to. Oh God, my bra's showing the whole time. All right. Ugh. And I asked my friend Mike to answer. I don't know what I'm doing today.